they said it was going to be cloudy, overcast, and rain in the area last night for this evening's ball game, but it looks beautiful to me. Perfect evening for baseball. Rockies and Marlins playing game 2 of this 3-game set. And yes, the Rockies trying to bounce back after a tough 5-3 loss last night. They took a 3-1 lead in the 8th inning and then gave up 4 in the 9th. Chad Bettis, well, when he's on the hill, Jeff Houston, it generally means that the Rockies will be shaking hands after the ball game.
Well, you just go back to his last 10 games that he's been out there. The Rockies are 8-2, and for Chad, he's 5-1 with the .466 ERA. So he's been out there, and the club has a good feeling when he steps on the hill.
D. Gordon stepping up. Just returned off the suspended list. He was out for 50 ball games. He scored the first run, and for a long time the only run of the game last night when he reached on a little infield hit up the third base line. Stanton brought him home with a double with 2 outs, and that's going to be a base hit, and Charlie's going to have to chase this. It's going to turn into a triple. Look out, the way Gordon runs, you got to hustle, and he's going to get shut down at third. Lorenzo Bundy had a decision to make. Once that got past Charlie Blackmon, who was playing shallow, it became, in this big outfield, an opportunity perhaps for an inside the park home run.
Instead, he'll have to settle for his 3rd triple this season. Charlie tries to cut it off, and then it catches on that grass, and now it's just pick it up and get it back in as quick as you can, because D. Gord's just flying around the bases. I mean, he's picking them up, putting them down. He was thinking about even rounding third until he got the stop sign.
Martin Prado takes strike 1. Prado had the huge hit last night in the top of the 9th inning, a 2-run single when he got ahead of Carlos Estevez. Sliders off the plate, 1-1, as we take a look at Chad Bettis's numbers, 9 and 6. This, by the way, is his 51st career start.
He's had 5 consecutive quality starts during this time, and he's 3-0 with the .306.
Well, with Gordon at third, nobody out.
Well,
virtually impossible to keep Miami off the board here in the first.
Well, and you got a guy in Prado who's hitting .368 with runners in scoring position. That's tied for 3rd in the National League.
And he's got a base hit, and the Marlins have a 1-0 lead, and Charlie had to hustle to get this one before it scooted by. Not the start Chad Bettis was looking for, or the Rockies. 2 men up and a run already in, 2 well-hit line drives.
Change up on the Subaru Supermo left up, belt high, and Prado, much like the base hit he had last night, right back up the middle. This had a little bit more of the line drive variety than last night. It was a line drive, but it was shorter into the outfield.
Christian Yelich at the plate. The Marlins have the 2nd highest ground ball rate offensively in baseball, which leads to a number of double plays. They lead the National League in hitting into double plays. That's exactly what Chad Bettis needs here. 1-1. Yelich has hit .325 since the All-Star break. He hit .342 in the 2nd half last year. Got a great swing. Really balanced Huey at the plate, isn't he?
Well, he uses his body to his advantage. A tall guy stands rather upright in the box, but never really see, like, that swing right there is never jumping to the ball.
Throw to third, not going to get him. 1st and 3rd, 3 straight hits. Greet Chad Bettis, and you got the big man Stanton coming up. Here's the Southwest batting order for Miami. They're already a third of the way through it. After Stanton comes the center fielder Marcell Ozuna. JT Realmuto is hitting above 300. Chris Johnson, Adeiny Echeverria, he had 2 hits last night. And then the former Padre, the Rockies very familiar with, Andrew Cashner. As a hitter against Chad Bettis, you're always ready to hit. And I know that sounds, of course you're ready to hit. Well, Chad's always around the plate. He's one of those guys that at times throws too many strikes.
But that's why in the month of July that he's been better, and the average against the fastball has been lower because he hasn't been on the plate as much. He's been off it enough that the hitters think they can get it. They can't. But on the Subaru strike zone, that's a little too far off of what we're talking about.
2-0 on Stanton. And this should be 2. There's 1 and a terrible throw.
I don't know what Daniel was doing. He had plenty of time to deliver that ball without having to jump and throw. You have Stanton running coming out of the box. And he's going to end up on second base because of the error by Daniel. That's his second of the season. This is a tailor-made double play. The DJ gives him a good feed, and right here he's got plenty of time, and then he ends up going more towards right field and then throwing out on the run. Watch this on the Subaru Supermo. He has got time, and even at that, he can clear himself from the runner instead of throwing like he did.
Marcell Ozuna with 1 out. Stanton at second, 2 runs in here in the first for Miami. Well, on a night that you wanted to do something positive out of the gate to distance yourself from the ugliness of what occurred late yesterday.
You've already 14 pitches in. You've given up 3 hits, 2 runs, and you've made an error on a double play ball.
You were going to give up that run on the double play, but the deck would be cleared, 2 outs, nobody on, and Ozuna at the plate. Now he risked further damage. Ozuna's hurt the Rockies quite a bit the last year. And this is a weak ground ball to short. Descalso's got it, takes his time, 2 outs. Here's the Rockies defensively tonight, much the same as we have seen the last few ball games. See Carr going right field. Blackman and Dahl join him in the outfield. Arenado, Descalso, LeMahieu, and Reynolds in the infield. And again, it's Nick Hundley behind the plate. Catcher JT Realmuto. Grew up in the Oklahoma City area. We've been catching for a few years. He was a terrific athlete, great high school quarterback, shortstop, and he went behind the plate in an emergency situation in a spring game. And scouts were aware of him. He's such a gifted guy, and they were watching him behind the plate and said, "Hey, if we draft you as a catcher, would you be interested in that?" He said, "Sure." He was going to go to play at Oklahoma State, Stillwater.
They drafted him in the 3rd round and said, "Here you go."
Yeah, he went to Albert High School in Midwest City. Good block. In high school, and I've seen this in 2 different places, so there are 2 sources that have written this, that he set national high school records in a 42-game season. Huey, he had 28 home runs with 118 driven in 42 games.
42 games.
My question is, that just misses. After, say, the first 20 games where he's driven in 60, would you stop pitching to him if you were the opponent coming in?
Well, you'd give him the Barry Bonds treatment, wouldn't you, even if the bases were loaded? So we'll just go ahead and walk him, so that way just 1 run comes in.
It's Barry. 3-2, and Realmuto fouls this one off. So I don't think anybody in Midwest City was shocked that Realmuto got to the big leagues.
And Midwest City is just a suburb of Oklahoma City, so it's a pretty big area, and it's a high baseball area.
Well, Matt Kemp's from Midwest City.
He's a pretty good hoop player in his day.
He was. Now with the Atlanta Braves. Last one to leave San Diego, turn out the lights.
Leave the forwarding address.
Real Muto in the midst of an 8-game hitting streak. Stanton at second base, 2 runs in for Miami in the first. Hard shot. DJ comes up with it, and the throw to first will get Real Muto. What did we tell you? Underrated in every facet of the game. That saved a run. Does it every night. 2 runs for Miami in the first. Two runs in the first inning. Charlie Blackmon will lead things off for the Rockies against a guy they know well, Andrew Cashner. They'll be facing him for the 4th time this year. Here's the Southwest batting order tonight. For Walt Weiss, LeMahieu, Cargo, Arenado, Dahl, Mark Reynolds, Descalso, Nick Hundley, and Bettis. Arenado a .350 career average against Cashner. Cashner a 4.5 ERA against the Rockies this year, but has won a couple of his 3 decisions. He had a no decision also. There's his season numbers, and it's his 2nd start for Miami.
Yeah, and the first one was real good. It was against St. Louis, but if you remember his last start here at Coors Field back when he was with San Diego, he came out after just 6 pitches because he hurt his neck in that ball game. Slider has been an improved pitch for him the last 3 or 4 starts. But for Andrew Cashner, where the Rockies have really done well against him is they've elevated that pitch count, because he'll throw 94 miles an hour, but they really make him work for every pitch.
Looks like he's emerged from the witness protection program.
I didn't even, yeah, you and I were joking today around the batting cage. We said, who is that? Kind of whispering to each other, because we're used to seeing him with that big, long beard.
Well, you can see the part of his face that hasn't seen the sun in a long time. And you say, well, why did he shave it off? The Marlins, like the Yankees, a couple teams that come to mind, have a policy of no facial hair. That's not Don Mattingly's policy. Mattingly, the longtime Yankee. It is an ownership policy.
Well, as you said, the Yankees have same thing. They just said, no, we're not having it. We're not dealing with it.
2-2, driven high and deep right field. Take a good look. You won't see it for long. That's a nice response.
Just another leadoff home run to start a ball game for Charlie Blackmon. That's number 18 in his career.
13th home run for Charlie this year.
I'll take your four-seam fastball on the Subaru Supermo, and I can take it out way deep. Cashner in the first inning has a 6.61 ERA. He's given up 15 runs in the first. Pretty nice way to answer that 2 runs that the Marlins put up. Get a little mojo back in your dugout.
And 4 or 5 rows into the second deck. On the outside corner, 1-1 on LeMahieu.
Everything comes together. Very short, compact swing after the foot gets down into the ground for Charlie.
So LeMahieu with the 4 hits last night. Chuck Nasty way out in front of everybody in leadoff home runs. I noticed
you were
joking
with me earlier today about Charlie when we're writing our lineups in. You said, oh, he went 0 for 5 last night. He'll change that in a big way today. And first at bat.
Well, he slipped under 300 coming into the ball game. This is bounced up the middle, and Echeverria's got it. And
I don't know about
thought
that.
He may have come off.
Yeah.
That's what Andy Fletcher, the first base umpire, said. Chris Johnson came off the bag, and there's no argument from Johnson. Rockies catch a break.
Echeverria. We'll have Don Mattingly take a look at this. We want to look at the replay. So he looks it in, but see how off balance he tries to make that throw.
You know what?
I think his foot was on the back. Just looking at that on the Subaru Supermo right there. It's on and then it comes off. This will give us a better look.
Yeah, he's still on the bag.
He's still on the bag. Ball and glove, foot still on, and then it comes off.
Well, going back to our discussion about Charlie Blackmon, a few days back, Charlie had, I don't know, gone 1 for 10 over a couple of games and slipped under 300, and that's when he threw out like 3 or 4 hits the next day. There's the indication. 6-3, 1 out, Cargo will come up. We said, yeah, if Charlie slips under 300, he's guaranteed to throw out, 3 or 4 knocks the next night. So Cargo steps up with a 16-game hitting streak. He had a 21-game hitting streak earlier in the year, sort of. It was a carryover from last year. He had hit in his final 10 appearances last year and then the first 11 this year. Jason Mono is a guest on our pregame show with Chuck Nasty. Outside, 2-0. Cargo against Cashner is 6 for 22 lifetime.
Here go the Marlins with their flipping of their infielders. Once it becomes a 2-0 count, they put Prado over on the right side and leave Echeverria on the shortstop side.
Two-1 and 3-1. Cargo drives one up the middle, and that'll be a base hit. And it's a 17-game hitting streak.
It's nice when you get that out of the way in your first at bat, because last night it was his 4th at bat that he had to extend his hit streak. And that was on an 0-2 pitch. Tonight it's a right back up the middle, and a diving Madaney could not corral it.
And that 17-gamer within one season is a new career high for Cargo. The 21-game streak came over 2 seasons. Here's Nolan. And he takes ball 1. Must feel like an NL West game to guys like Cargo and Nolan seeing Cashner out there.
Sure. Because he's had 8 career games against the Rockies, 4 starts here at Coors Field. That made him work and put up some large numbers against Cashner. 6.94 ERA. They've hit over 300 against him.
And if you include his starts in San Diego, 3 and 3, a 5.71 career ERA taking on the Rockies. Nolan is 7 for 20 against the beardless Andrew Cashner. What's somewhat surprising is neither Nolan Arenado or Carlos Gonzalez own a home run against Cashner.
Well, the guy that does is Charlie. He has 2 of them against him now. And there is the beard of Charlie.
So he hits the home run off Cashner, and then he jogs around the bases. He pulls on his beard, says, "Jealous?"
I can still keep mine.
He walked by me today, and quick hello, and I didn't have the heart to ask him when was the last time he'd shaved. I can't remember the last time we saw him.
No.
Was
No
it before the Rizzo trade? This is double play ball. And D. Gordon, who did not make the turn last night in the 9th inning or in the 8th inning, does here. Rockies get a run back on the 13th home run this year by Charlie Blackmon. 2-1 going to the second.
Chad Bettis, who had a slow start in the first inning. That's not unusual. After the game last week when he pitched in New York, he said he wished he knew at the beginning of the game what he knew middle of the game. And we talked a little bit about just being able to change things up on the fly.
I think it goes along with planning. Honestly, you know, you make certain plans, but if something goes not according to it, then you have to be able to be flexible and switch it on the fly.
And that's how you've pitched this year.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's a double down the line probably from Johnson, but yeah, that's what he does, guys. He kind of, you know, he can't. You said it, Jeff. He's hittable. He's given up a lot of hits, so he needs to be precise in his planning and adjusting on the fly. And let's see if he does that tonight.
And one thing I noticed, I was walking out last night right behind Chad, and had something in his hand, and it was a scouting report of the Miami Marlins. So you talk about preparation and being prepared and always having a game plan. Chad is that guy. So you know, last night he was studying, he was watching the hitters, and then today, I'm sure he's seeing what's going on. Maybe with his fastball, might work in a few more sliders and curveballs tonight.
Charlie gets behind it, and no advancement from Johnson, even though the throw is way offline. So Adeiny Echeverria flies out, 1 out, and that'll bring up the pitcher Cashner. Cashner's a guy that can swing the bat a little bit, so it's far from an automatic out. Cashner out of TCU. He's from Conroe, Texas.
First-round pick of the Cubs in 2008.
Swings and misses there. Inside. Home plate umpire tonight is Clint Fagan. Andy Fletcher at first. Mark Ripperger is at second base. And the crew chief, Joe West, third. Johnson a leadoff double just inside the bag at first. He's at second with 1 out. 2-1. Pitcher always hits before everybody else, the starting pitcher. And he took around, then Barry Bonds summoned him to the back of the cage and spent probably a couple minutes talking to him, something about his swing. You think, well, hitting coaches just let pitchers go, but they're trying to coach those guys up too.
Well, and they need some coaching sometimes, because those guys have a pretty big influence on what happens in a game and how long they might stay in a game.
2-2, and now it's 3-2. And he walked him. That's not what he was looking to do there. Now you have 2 on, and D. Gordon, who's about impossible to double up, coming up. Gordon started the game off with a line drive. There was probably about 40 feet to the left of Charlie Blackmon in center field, or actually to his left toward right center field. And the ball got past. Charlie wasn't in area, he just couldn't quite get there. It skipped along the grass, and it was a stand-up triple for Gordon.
D. Gordon and Billy Hamilton are very similar, that they try to hit the ball down on the baseball, because then their speed comes into play. And when you start to swing down, you get a lot of backspin on the ball, and that's what happened with that ball in right center field.
Nolan still has to guard against the bunt, and Chad Bettis has to be aware of that. He has to get to that left side. D. Gordon will bunt in any count. He will bunt with 2 strikes.
He did it in a game a few years ago when he was with the Dodgers. He did it twice in that game.
Remember that?
Yeah, because the first time it was shocked us, and then the second time said, no way, he's not going to do it, and he did. He dropped down another bunt. I don't think either one of them were successful, but you have that book on him now that he's not afraid to do that.
Plenty of speed at the plate, not a lot of speed on the base paths. It's a strike, 1 and 2. Gordon's hitting 7 straight with that first inning triple. Something kind of interesting. D. Gordon won a batting title last year. He won a Gold Glove. Yet this year, when he's played prior to the suspension, mostly they're 13 and 16 with him. They're 10 games over 500 without him. But I think they'd prefer to have him. There's 1, and the throw to first, and that had kind of a funky release from Daniel. First and third, 2 outs.
Chad did everything he could to try to get the speedy Gordon. One hopper, gives the feedback to Daniel, comes across the bag. It took him an extra step to get rid of it, because he catches it, and you know that Miami is thankful for this trade-off. They get the pitcher off of the bases, and they get D. Gordon on the bases.
So Martin Prado's at the plate. One of the leading hitters, not only in the National League, but in road games this year. He's been a holy terror. He's one of the top road hitters in the game. And they move him off the plate with the first offering. It's 1-0.
Miami as a ball club, they're first in the major leagues with a road batting average of .283. The Angels are next at .275, and Boston's third at .266.
A lot of work here in the first 2 innings for Chad Bettis, trying to keep it at 2-1 with Prado at the plate. Prado hitting .355 out on the road. JT Realmuto is leading, actually he's second now in the big leagues, first in the National League in road batting average at .363.
I think D's going to wait around much longer. He'll take off on this pitch. And then what do? Do you fake the throw and then come up and look at Chris Johnson at third?
I would throw through with Chris Johnson at third. There he goes, and this ball's well hit to center field. Charlie will get there though. In the inning, a double and a walk, no runs. Miami in the middle of the second with a 2-1 lead. Rockies baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by the 2016 Toyota Tundra and your hometown Toyota stores, and by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. You know what? That's the Svetsville Zoo, I've been told, in Fort Collins. I have a lot of pictures from beautiful Fort Collins tonight. It's CSU night at the ballpark. A lot of green and gold mixed in with purple, as it should be. Here's David Dahl, and he drives this ball to deep right center field, and it'll take a couple of hops, go to the wall. Could be a triple. Dahl picking it up now. He'll easily have a triple, as Stu Cole will stop him as he rounds third, make it a 12-game hitting streak.
He's got every column filled up now, Drew, because that's his first triple. I mean, this kid just, every night, just does something. But you know what he does really well? He hits really well. Great swing on the Subaru Supermo. Goes down and gets that. I like the high finish. And This
He's got an electric bat. The ball, we said it, it really comes off the bat.
Yeah, and with Ozuna slipping in the outfield, thought there might be a chance. Might have been a chance to send him, but I know why he didn't. Nobody out, don't risk it. Get that, got a runner at third with nobody out.
Mark Reynolds at the plate. Been a middle of the order guy throughout most of his career. Done a really nice job for the Rockies this year. You know, it seems like a long time ago that he was in a platoon with Ben Paulson. That was at the start of the year. Ben was getting a lot of ABs against right-handed pitching. Reynolds was getting some ABs against righties as well, and then just kind of took over that spot. Mark has driven in 47 with a dozen home runs. He's kept the average around 280. 8 for his last 16 now at the plate.
Yeah, and part of that explosion the Rockies had last night in the 8th inning had a double and an RBI to put the Rockies ahead 3-1 at the time. I needed some new lumber.
You know, on one hand, there's the natural inclination to be greedy. You got a small taste of it. Story and Dahl and how long that lineup would be, and unfortunately Trevor's down. It's out of play. But thank goodness Dahl has arrived and brought what he has brought to help out a lineup missing Trevor Story.
And you never know how somebody's gonna hit or respond when they come to the big leagues for the first time, but it hasn't seemed to phase him at all.
Well, you know, Mark Reynolds is upset. Why not check it out?
You know, Drew, that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't care what side of it is. You know, if it's for or against the Rockies. But to me, as an umpire, how can you, and I've said it before, how can you watch the flight of the baseball and also watch the swing at the same time? You go ask the guys on the corner what they think.
I thought he held up. But you know, that's a really tough call. It let the guy who has an angle on it, in this case Andy Fletcher, make the call. That puts a lot of pressure on Descalso. Descalso's got to get this ball in play. Dahl runs very well at third.
Because if not, then probably pass on Nick Hundley to get to the pitcher.
Back up the middle. This will get the job done. Echeverria gets Descalso, but Daniel gets the game tied up with that ground ball up the middle. 22nd RBI for Descalso. We're at 2-2 as Dahl gets congratulated in the dugout. Join in on the conversation tonight and every night. Send us your thoughts, photos, questions. Use Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag Toyota Talk. We'll show some of your Toyota Talk comments throughout the evening. Good professional at bat by Descalso.
Needed that. Needed to get that guy in at all costs.
Hundley a line shot or on one hop, and that will end the inning. Leadoff triple by David Dahl. Rockies cash that in. They're back even as we go to the third. As we go to the top of the third inning with Jeff Houston and Mark Stout, I'm Drew Goodman, and joining us in the booth is the distinguished Colorado State alumnus.
Don't laugh, Huey.
Jenny Cavnar, wearing green.
And
did you go out? Those aren't green earrings. What are you saying?
it's a little yellow gold.
Oh, green and gold. I got it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Did you just go out and buy this today?
Yeah, just to match.
You did?
No, I've had it.
Nice.
Green's my favorite color.
Well, it ought to be.
Clearly.
It's CSU night. How fired up are you?
So fired up. Cam the Ram was here. The cheerleaders are here.
Cam
Football
was here?
season's in the air.
You didn't see him
Can't
down
you
on the
smell
field?
it?
No, I didn't smell Cam, and I didn't see Cam. I like Cam. Cam's friendly, usually. Was Cam really here and I missed it?
Yes.
Oh,
Pay
Drew.
attention, Drew.
Come on.
I miss a lot of things. You guys noticed that?
What was your mascot in college?
We're the Bombers. Ithaca College Bombers.
See?
Say.
There's Cam
There's Cam.
and Dinger.
Gary Ozello
Gary
on the right.
Ozello. Hey.
He's a legend at Fort Collins.
Legend.
He was the head of sports information for 60 years.
60.
60.
It's crazy since he's
Gary-
only 59.
I know, and Gary's back there. I hope he appreciates me. Gary's a legend in the business. Anyhow, this is a fun night. My wife, as you know, Chris, went to Colorado State.
She's a good woman. That's why.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How tough is this for Huey right now?
You know what? Let me tell you something. Huey handles this very well. As a graduate of the University of Wyoming, and everybody knows that's Wyoming and Colorado State, huge rivals. Even though the Wyoming folks, as you know, Jenny, all come down and party in Fort Collins.
Where else would you go?
Oh, my
Right.
goodness.
You know?
They drive down from Laramie.
Fort Fun. Got its name for a reason.
Fort Fun.
You can only go to the library so
Oh.
much, Huey.
I went there quite often.
Yeah, not
It
the
was right
book
ac-
one.
No, it was
The
right
one where you
across-
ordered
And,
soda
and
pop.
Right
once
from
you
the-
met Wendy there, then you stopped going,
Stop
right?
going. That's it. Exactly right.
You know that Huey and I graduated college the same year.
We did.
We're class of 2004, buddy.
Yep.
Proud of you.
I am
It
proud
took
of
you
Huey.
4 years. It took me
44.
18. Okay, pal.
Hey, that's okay. You had a
You
career
were
in
playing,
between.
you were
That's
playing a
fine.
little baseball in between. 3-2 on
2004. I forgot about that.
3-2 on Christian Yelich. Back up the middle and a base hit for Yelich. Chad is trying to battle through what's been a rough go so far. That is the 5th hit for the Marlins. And that'll bring up the big man, Giancarlo Stanton, who did not go to Colorado State, though the football team, the basketball team, and if they were still playing baseball, all would have welcomed him.
I'm pretty sure they all recruited him. I helped a little bit.
But instead, he chose to go play professional baseball.
You're into such things.
Because we have Colorado State on in football. We'll have them on a bunch in basketball on Root Sports this fall and winter. Who were the big star athletes when you were matriculating in Fort Collins?
The BVP, man. It was
Oh,
the Bradley
Bradley
Van
Van
Pelt era.
So that you did that just for Spilly because he's from Santa Barbara.
Well, of course, but yeah, Bradley was there. Joel Dreesen was there. Big deal. Dallas Davis, actually, who works for the Rockies organization.
Double
Their Pete
D.
Rebstock.
Good receiver, Pete Rebstock. Those were good years.
They were great years. Obviously, Sonny Lubick years, and I just think so much of Sonny and his wife, Carol Jo. They've done so much for the Fort Collins community, and even after Sonny stopped coaching, he's around. He's definitely the face of the university, no doubt about that, and was really glad to hear when an anonymous donation came in to keep the field, Sonny Lubick Field, for the new stadium.
I thought that was sweet of you and Steve.
You know, dug deep into our pockets.
It's going to be a nice stadium they're going to have on campus.
Oh, I'm so excited. We went up last year just to kind of do a tour for Root Sports during our Mountain West season, and I thought it was coming along so fast, and seeing the pictures grow every day, it's great.
Cargo's going to have this as Stanton lines out 3-0 and nearly a chance at doubling off Christian Yelich. 1 out. Let's take a look at some of the, I guess they're computer generated renderings. And the stadium is, I was up there not that long ago. I mean, it's really coming along. And of course, it'll be ready to go in 2017. It's going to be gorgeous. Seat more than 40,000. With the opportunity, if necessary, to expand even beyond that.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I mean, just looking at that gets me so excited. All the great years at Hughes, I mean, that I spent in college, I love that place. That's where I started my broadcasting career. I got an opportunity to do some sideline stuff with the radio crew up there, and that's really where I got started. So I will always have fond memories there.
And you know this to be true for me as well. I mean, I love all the schools in the area, but when I moved down from Aspen after my first job up there, Prime Sports, you know, incarnations of, you know, where we are now, Fox Sports and then Root Sports, Prime Sports, one of the first properties they got was Colorado State football and basketball. So my first gig doing play-by-play was doing CSU football and basketball. So yeah, special place for me also.
And clearly my allegiance was there. That's where I went to college. I bleed green and gold. I love the Rams, but I love that we get to do the Mountain West package for Root Sports, because I've covered the Mountain West for most of my career, and I just think the schools are so neat, the towns are so neat, and I can't believe I'm saying this about Wyoming and Laramie and going up there.
We have a blast when we go up there. No,
but we do. We have a great time. The people at every school treat us so great, and it's just really fun. It's such a great conference, and I just love how tough the kids compete. In fact, my husband grew up in Northern California, and he was being recruited by Air Force to play football and baseball there, and his grandpa, but this is when they had the old Thursday night package on ESPN, and they would always get the Fort Collins games or the Laramie games. It was snowing, or Air Force snowing, and his grandpa would always say, look how tough those guys are. They don't wear sleeves. Why are you kids wearing sleeves in California?
They don't need sleeves.
No. Come on, those are tough boys. And they were. And really, I think back again to the Sonny Lubick era. He always went out and got that farm kid. The farm kid
CSU's kind of been in your blood too, though.
Yeah, it really has. It has. My dad went there. My dad played baseball there, actually, and roomed with Gary Ozello, who you previously mentioned.
We
Road
have
roomies.
We have a picture here we're going to share in a moment. 1 and 2, and a strikeout of Osuna. That's big. 2 outs. Yelich still at first base. It'll bring up JT Realmuto. So here's your dad, Steve.
Aww.
And with Dode, your mom.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, you're a beautiful woman, and we looked at this, and Huey and I both said, oh my gosh, that looked so much like Jenny.
Isn't that crazy?
Don't you think so? Does that not look like you?
Post?
Can you wish
I
them,
would love
please?
to wish my parents happy anniversary. Not just any anniversary, their 40th wedding anniversary. So that's pretty cool. That picture was probably taken 43 years ago.
You do. You look exactly like your mom.
Well,
which is a good thing.
That's great. That's a nice
What position
compliment.
did your dad play?
Thank you. He was a second baseman. Middle infield.
Look at that.
You know Huey.
I
Middle
know.
infield.
And then he went on to have a great coaching career.
He did. I love those unis. I always, every time, you know, my parents kind of have old stuff going through boxes. I'm like, Dad, get out the old gear.
That's a fair ball. Nolan can show off here. On the bag, out at first. What a play by Nolan. With some help from Mark Reynolds. Well done. Got a fast man in JT Realmuto also. Watch this all day. 2-2.
there's Mark Reynolds. He was on the backside of that throw from Nolan. And it's worth another look and another look because Nolan goes to his backhand and then off balance throw across the diamond, skips on one hop. Mark playing on the backside of the bag to get a better hop on the Supermo, getting the speedy JT Realmuto coming down the line. Every night, it's so much fun to watch that magic over at third base, getting a little help from your friend, too, at first base, and Mark Reynolds.
You know, Mark really has a good feel at first, doesn't he? For a guy that is a third baseman, originally a shortstop when you go back to college.
Well, most first basemen, you want to play the ball in fair territory. It's a little unnerving when you start to back up into foul territory because you know that runner's going to cross at some point. And then where are you in relation to the bag? So it's something that is learned. I think Todd Helton did that probably as well as anybody over there at first. But look at the years of experience Todd had.
Let me jump in here on this. I think that Mark Reynolds is the exact opposite of Ichiro, and I love it. The guy can contort his body every which direction to get an out for you, but he has zero stretching ability. He says he does not stretch at all.
Well, he stretched there.
But that's what I mean. He doesn't pregame stretch at all. Like when we've seen him do the splits this year, doesn't practice that. He just goes for it.
Most guys then would go, ow, well, I can't get up.
I'm telling you though, even that movement that he just had.
Would he have not fit in with the folks playing the game 60, 70 years ago?
Oh, sure.
Just show up at the ballpark. Bettis is gone.
Are you asking that because Huey played 60 or 70 years ago?
Man, I couldn't
Inside
stretch
information?
either. I think stretching's overrated.
Come on, show and go.
The only thing you can have
We got to show our Mountain West Conference schedule. It's coming up en route. Colorado State will be on several times.
Yeah, 3 times. 3 times for CSU. Start out against Northern Colorado on September 17th, I believe, yes. And they'll play at UNLV, that doubleheader on the 22nd. And Fresno State at Colorado State in November. Pretty good lineup.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I have them the latter 2 times in Vegas and in Fort Collins.
Fort Fun.
Hughes Stadium, final season. Charlie had a home run his first time up. He got fisted a little bit there. And Echeverria goes out and makes the catch.
And I love what they're doing this year with the decades at Hughes Stadium. They're really honoring the past and the history of CSU. Each game they're going to honor a different decade, so I can't quite remember which game you're up there for. But maybe you can dress accordingly. You know, if you have 70s night, you could bust out the leisure suit.
I think I'm up there for either the 90s or the odds.
Okay, is that what you're calling it?
I
just called them the 2000s,
I didn't
but
know
okay.
what to call it. Can I go?
2000s.
Should I say the odds? No. What would this decade be then?
10s. The 2010s.
The odds.
DJ fouls it off.
What are we going to do?
How do you,
I don't know. It's
how do you
really
dress?
concerning
How do you
sometimes.
dress in the 90s? What would I wear?
Oh gosh, I got it for you. You're gonna do like your overalls. You remember this look?
Wait, listen,
Yeah,
I'm
like-
not from the farm. What are you talking about?
No, overalls. You undo one of, they're baggy overalls, you know, real baggy. Flannel, you maybe undo one of the straps.
In the 90s?
Yeah, come on.
You went to
Where were you?
college in the 90s,
Come on.
right?
No, Drew.
We
When
didn't
did
even
you
do
get
that.
it?
We didn't even do that in Laramie. Come on.
You too. You too. If you want to come to me for my decades of fashion help, come to me.
Okay.
I'll come to you for yours. So we'll go back to the 60s.
0-2, and DJ's gone. A quick inning for Andrew Kastner. You have to prepare yourself for the post-game show, is that what I
I
understand?
do. Thanks for having me.
This is
Go
cute.
Rams.
Yeah.
Here, we'll get a little Rammy in.
Yeah, this is cute.
Stop.
walks and the distance the Rockies earned throughout the season. Start tracking your own steps today to get fit. And so far this year, the Rockies have walked a total of 346 times, 31,140 feet. Get fit with UC Health. Two ball game as we go to the top of the 4th inning. 7, 8, 9 for the Miami Marlins. Chris Johnson, he doubled down the right field line his first time up. Chad Bettis, there was a good slider and it's swung on and missed.
Chris Johnson hitting over 400 at Coors Field. Inside, outside on the Subaru strike zone. That's what Chad's going to have to do. And he's done it better here in the 2nd and 3rd innings.
We've seen that before from him where he may have a sluggish start and then he kind of dials it in.
He's allowed 13 runs in the 1st inning in his 23 starts, and then not unusual for a lot of pitchers. It's different from the bullpen mound coming out. Some stuff might work there that doesn't work when you come out to throw it on the big diamond.
Johnson, a .367 lifetime hitter against the Rockies. Chad never moves far off that rubber between pitches. He's always ready to go. 2-2, and that's inside. 3-2. Win last night for the Marlins, just the 2nd time they've won a game when trailing after 8.
They're 2-48 now. I mean, that's crazy to think about that.
The troubling thing for the Rockies, you're going to have those gut-wrenching defeats, but it's now 4 times this year that the Rockies have lost a game they've led in the 9th inning. That's
well, and against a team that you're chasing in the wild card.
Nolan with time throws out Reynolds. Where did the rest of that bat end
Well,
up?
all you need to do is look at Nolan as this ball's coming to him, because he's pointing up to the stands as this ball is coming to him.
He's telling the fans, this how talented
good he is.
Yeah, he's telling the fans, look out, there's a bat coming.
But
here.
I got the ball.
I'm going to field the ground ball and throw out Johnson, but folks, beware.
He's ducking out of the way.
He's a native of Cuba, Danny Echeverria. Takes a breaking ball for a strike. 2 for 4 last night. He's on the Cuban junior national team. He was coming up in Cuba, generally regarded as the best.
There it is right here. See, he was, Nolan was pointing.
He was generally regarded as the best shortstop coming out of Cuba at the time. I think the Marlins will take what they're getting from Echeverria. He's 255. He's driven in 34. He hits an occasional home run, but he's a really good glove.
A lot of that has to do with the work he's done, and I've said it before with Perry Hill, their infield guy. Really bought into what Perry was teaching, not being so flashy, just make the routine plays.
Three and 2. High pitch count, especially for Chad. 70 pitches with 2 outs in the 4th. He can't get it, and DJ on the move. Safe.
Once it was over the head of Chad, you knew it was going to be a problem. Over the top. Daniel peels off, allowing DJ to make the play. Foot on the bag, ball in the glove on the Subaru Supermo. Correct call at first base from Andy Fletcher.
Now a 7-game hitting streak for Echeverria. Cashner, grew up down the road from Houston, down the road from Texas A&M in Conroe, Texas. Grew up on a 15-acre farm that's fouled off. Has a baseball field on his farm. First baseball coach was Mom. True story.
He just looks country strong. You have a batting cage in your barn, but how about a field? You need to kind of clear some area out there, put an infield in on your land.
You know, I don't think that hasn't run through my mind. I was going to solicit donations from you. I didn't talk to you about that.
Not yet.
Two strikes on Cashner, and he gets it down. Three-4 on the sacrifice. 2 outs. D. Gordon will come up.
Well, the Rockies are hosting a back-to-school sock drive to close to kids of Denver on August 7th. New socks will be collected at all gates prior to the game.
D. Gordon taking his time, letting Cashner get back to the dugout. Gordon a triple and a comebacker. Ten for 29 since returning from the suspended list.
See how it goes for a while, but remember the new rule they put in that guys that have been suspended, they're not eligible for the playoffs.
That's a wonderful point, one that you don't think about, because the guy comes back and say, okay, he did his time.
Well, that was because Melky Cabrera did it, and then after that everybody was saying, hey, now that shouldn't be right. He shouldn't be allowed to be playing. And so now for Miami and D. Gordon, if they do make it, there's still a lot of season left, 50-plus games, but as the closer you get, you got to make sure that you get Derek Dietrich more reps at second base. I mean, so it's
it's hard.
I love the rule. I really like that rule.
I agree with the rule. Make for some odd decisions, you'd think, for Mattingly down the road. 0-2 on Gordon. And with the wild card chase, the Rockies began the day 3 games back. The Marlins and Cardinals were in a dead heat for the final spot. The Dodgers are 2.5 up for the first wild card spot, and then actually the Rockies are 4 back. Pirates are 3 back. The Mets 2 back. That's how it looks right now. Talk about high pressure baseball, high stakes baseball. So
this is fun baseball.
It's awesome, and that's why I love the second wild card. You could conceivably have a team play a play-in game, as the Rockies did in '07, then a wild card one game, and then catch your breath, and now you're in a series. But 2 game 7s just to get to a series, right?
That's what baseball should be like.
He went around, and it was a foul tip anyhow. So Gordon's gone. Bettis with 2 scoreless, or 3 scoreless, after giving up the 2 in the first inning. Middle of 4, Cargo to lead off. Rockies score 7 runs or more. Go to participating Colorado Taco Bell locations the next day. Do it between 4 and 6 to get your Rockies taco special. Liv Moss at Taco Bell. All right, the Rockies in a 2-2 game. We go to the bottom of the 4th. Tough loss last night, 5-3. Game 2 of 3 against Miami after the Rockies took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. And Cargo will lead it off. Takes an off-speed pitch for a strike. Cargo a single up the middle his first time, and now we have the redoing of the shift. They start with 3 on the right side, but it's Echeverria over there, and now they move Echeverria back to the left side. Put Prado over there, and this is out of play 0-2.
But it didn't matter for the first at bat for Cargo when he hit the ball back up the middle. Nobody could get it. Echeverria tried to dive, went off his glove. Cargo with the 17-gamer now.
It's tied for the longest in the major leagues with Ender Inciarte of Atlanta. And this is hit it in the shallow center field. 1 out. And that'll bring up Arenado. Nolan grounded into a 6-4-3 his first time up. 7 home runs. He's driven in 82. Pulls that foul. CSU night at the ballpark. They have 5 guys in their history, and they're not playing baseball unfortunately anymore up in Fort Collins or in Laramie or in Boulder, but 5 CSU alum made it to the big leagues. This ball crushed to left, but it's going to go foul. Cisco Carlos pitched 4 years in the big leagues in the late 60s. Jim Deedle in 74. I believe it's Mark Huseman, 83-91. Mark Knudsen, we see Mark all the time, and that's a strikeout. Mark in the big leagues for almost a decade, 85-93. As we take a look at our greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile, and it's a list of all the. Oh, I'm sorry, this is on David Dahl. Get to the last CSU player in the Hall of Fame from when they were playing baseball to get to the big leagues. David Dahl, 10th player in Major League history to start his career with a 12-game hitting streak or more. Second longest to the 16 that Juan Pierre threw out to begin his career. 17 hits first 12 games, at times what Charlie Blackmon did in 2011. He had a triple and scored the tying run. That's fouled off. It was in his first at bat. The other CSU Ram to make the big leagues was Tippy Martinez, probably the best of the bunch. Tippy was a very good pitcher from 74 to 88, most notably with Baltimore.
And I had a chance when we were in Baltimore. Tippy was back there and talked to him for a little bit about his time at CSU. Has fond memories of Fort Collins. It was kind of fun to chat with Tippy.
Tippy from La Junta?
I don't remember. I'll have to look that up. Mark Knudsen played against him when he was with the Brewers.
He was an opening day starter one year for Milwaukee.
Against Nolan Ryan when I was with the Rangers.
You were in that game. A 1-2-3 inning in the 4th. As Cashner carved up the middle of the Rockies order. 2-2, go to the 5th. Rockies baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Subaru. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. And by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. 2 in the first for the Marlins. Chad Bettis has settled in since then. The Rockies got a run in the first and a run in the second. The run in the first was a Charlie Blackmon home run. 3rd time through now for Bettis. He'll face Prado, Yelich, and Stanton. Prado an RBI single in the first, and he lined to center field. Timmy Martinez was from La Junta. One ball, 1 strike on Prado.
Doug, look up Mike Oquist for me. I think Mike, former big league pitcher, is also from La Junta.
And Prado on 2 hops to LeMahieu.
Yes, he is. Mike Oquist from La Junta, Colorado. Yeah, Christian Yelich coming to the plate. Christian 2 hits today. Back in the first inning with his base hit to left field. It's his 500th career hit. You have to go back to, when was his first one? Well, his first one was at Coors Field when he made his major league debut back on July 23rd, 2013. It was off Chacin that day. He had 2 hits off Jalise that day.
You know what's kind of interesting about Yelich? Southern California kid. And he got drafted very high, so he never went to college. But he signed his NLI, his National Letter of Intent, with the University of Miami. And lo and behold, where does he end up?
just down the street.
Yes, literally from Coral Gables. Well, there's another Southern Cal guy that went all the way to Miami, and it worked out well for him. Ryan Braun from Southern California. He's a big star for the Hurricanes.
Miami in the College World Series this year. Got bounced pretty quickly. But still one of the top 8 teams to make it.
This is fouled off.
Won a national championship. I think it was in 1984.
Well, Jason Hayward's little brother plays for the University of Miami. Drafted this year. I think he was draft eligible. I'm looking at Dougie. I think this was his junior year. I believe he got drafted. Jason Hayward's brother. 2-2 on Yelich, and that is foul.
This was 1982 for the Miami Hurricanes, and also in 2001 they won the national championship in baseball.
Coach Frazier, I believe, right?
Yes.
Kind of interesting though, when a kid from Southern Cal, beautiful weather.
Oh, you got UCLA, USC. I mean, you name it, up and down the coast in California, and you're going to travel all the way to the other coast.
And UCLA also recruited him. University of San Diego recruited Yelich. 2-2. Jacob Hayward, Jason's brother, went in the 18th round to the Giants, and so far in rookie ball, he's hitting .380. So Jason may be calling Jacob for some hitting advice
tips
right now.
Jacob's calling Jason up for some financial advice.
Exactly. 2-2, ground ball right at Nolan. Stays low, takes his time, and he throws out Yelich, who runs well.
Well, fans, every Sunday home game is Bike to the Game, including tomorrow. You can ride your bike for the chance to win prizes. Go to Rockies.com/green for details.
So here is Stanton, who continues to live in the Los Angeles area in the offseason, and he works out at UCLA in the winter.
Oh boy,
that's gone. Whoa, this one land. 3-2 Miami on Stanton's 23rd.
And his 16th career home run against Colorado.
Those are the kind of home runs he hits, just line shots that state line shots for about 450 feet. He's just so ridiculously strong.
And he creates such leverage with the frame that he knows it. Everybody in the ballpark knows it's just a matter of how far is it going to travel.
Well, in his career at Coors Field, he's hit a home run once every about 8.5 at bats.
So pushes the bat back to get the separation from the front foot. And just superhuman strength.
Since 2010, Stanton's hit more home runs than anybody else in the National League. Watching his batting practice, they're not usually majestic, high-flying, home runs that are bringing rain. They're line shots that for everybody else, hitting a gap and take 2 or 3 bounces and hit the wall. For him, they end up like 30 rows up.
Vinny today, Vinny Castilla was joking around with us and talking about hitting home runs. And what did he say? Late life. He's got a lot of late life on the baseball when he hits it. Most of the guys it'll die, but his is an extra 30, 40 feet.
He is really close with AJ Ramos, and that's inside ball 4. And they with another buddy usually go to Europe and travel around in the off season. Now, with all due respect to AJ Ramos, who's good friends with Chad Bettis, they played together at Texas Tech, grew up in the Lubbock area together. I don't know how many people are in France or in Munich are stopping AJ Ramos on the street and say, boy, I watched you close games last year. They probably don't know who Giancarlo Stanton is, but I guarantee you everybody stops him and says, you do something athletic, right?
You can tell by the body. I mean, he should be, maybe on one of those pictures. But for Giancarlo Stanton, I think what he did in the home run derby in San Diego was nothing short of remarkable, hitting 61 total home runs.
That's amazing. And not just that he did it, but there's a fatigue factor. All those, guys will tell you, Cargo, he's been in it a couple times. There's a fatigue factor to taking that many swings. 2-0 now after the walk to Osuna on JT Realmuto. He was robbed of a hit twice in this game, once by DJ, once by Nolan. 2 outs, and this is in the air to right field. Cargo, I think, is going to have a play, and he does, right near the stands. Well done. He can hand a souvenir out. In the inning, Giancarlo Stanton hits his 23rd, and it's a 3-2 Miami lead. Mark Reynolds will be first up when we come back. Here's this week's CenturyLink High-Speed Challenge poll question. What's the shortest 9-inning game ever played at Coors Field? Was it against the Padres in 08, the Braves in 08, or back in 06 against the Milwaukee Brewers? Cast your vote at rootsports_RM. Well, Andrew Cashner's retired 9 straight. He's given up only 3 hits in the ball game. He has struck out 4. Last 4 ball games coming into tonight, he had struck out 25, walked only 3, and had a whip of 0.76.
Career start number 100 tonight for Andrew Cashner.
And this ball is blooped to shallow left. This one could drop, and what a catch made by Echeverria. That's a great play by Adeiny Echeverria. No chance for Yelich. He was playing too deep.
And the range to go out for Adeiny. As you're going back to this ball, you're trying to glance, see where the runner is. Most of the time, you'll start to short arm the ball on the Subaru Supermo, but he doesn't. He gets his arms fully extended, and that's what allows him to make the catch. Of course, Andrew Cashner is saying thank you very much. Tip of the cap to you.
Strike on Descalso. Daniel had an RBI ground out in the second. That tied up the game. It was after a David Dahl triple began the second inning. That's the last Rockies hit. Last Rockies base runner. Dahl's triple. 2 strikes now on Descalso. Hundley on deck. Pitch count for Bettis is 98. He's due up 4th this inning. Because of that, Chris Russin is throwing in the Rockies' pen. And this will drop for a base hit.
Not hit particularly hard by Daniel. You get a ball up and you do the right things mechanically at the plate, you will bleed some balls in. That's what Daniel did.
Looks like Ryan Rayburn may get an opportunity. Normally in the middle innings, it's Christian Adames, and that's who's in the on-deck circle right now. So Rayburn may just be getting the mind right for later in the ball game. That's the bat that he likes to save for late in the ball game, talking about Walt. One and 0 on Hundley. Two 2-0 count for Nick.
Nick 4 for 8 in his career against Cashner.
He used to catch him.
Right. You kind of have that knowledge. I think it goes one way or the other with that. One, you either just own the guy out on the hill or he owns you. There's no in between when you've caught a former pitcher and you're at the plate.
Got a fastball and he fouled it back. Nick hasn't had a ton of hits lately, but he's had some big hits.
That's what you need to have for a lineup when you have somebody like Trevor out. The guys at the bottom need to do their thing, just throw out those key hits, some RBIs.
Three and one. Rockies trying to snap a little two-game slide. 27 and 26 at home. 2-2 so far on this homestand. And that's a double play ball. So that'll end the inning. Descalso erased after singling. It's 3-2. Miami going to the 6th.
To Miami, it is DJ LeMahieu bobblehead night. His lovely wife Jordan is here displaying it. Let's hear what some of the guys have to say about that and if it looks like DJ.
I mean, he doesn't look like DJ at all, but it says DJ and it has his number on it, so
that gives it a yay.
Sure. Go Ghostbusters.
I like it. I mean, it's cool that he has one. I don't know if it really looks like him.
This is a good bobblehead. Good spring in it, yeah. Good quality. I like it.
What's that question, Jordan?
Do you know why it's a Ghostbuster?
Well, the movie came out. And
Okay,
I was going to ask you, is it DJ's favorite movie?
I mean, I don't think so. I know he's seen it, at least the old one.
Right, the original.
Yeah.
Does he have a favorite movie?
I'm going to say Shawshank Redemption.
We'll take it. How many of those have you stashed away here at the ballpark?
Well, actually, when I got to the ballpark, there were none left. So someone snuck in a room, found me too, but I did hear he has a good amount.
Yeah, usually there's a case that'll show up in his lap.
That's what I've heard.
So I know you guys are building a new house. Will you have a room for, I don't know, bobbleheads, gold gloves, etc.?
I'm sure it's going to find a room somewhere. I'm thinking maybe in the basement. But
are you in charge? You're in charge of decorating, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He kind of said, I'll show him pictures. He's like, oh, looks good. I think he trusts me.
I thought you were going to be out of town because he told me you guys were maybe closing on it or something.
No, we were selling our place in Atlanta. So when we played the Braves, he got lucky and left Atlanta, and I got stuck moving out of our house by myself. And then, our house should be ready when baseball's over.
Jordan, it's the middle of the season. I don't know how he could really have helped out with that.
He gets lucky. We happen to move into Denver, and they're on a road trip, or we move out of a house, and he's not around. Yeah, he gets lucky.
So when are you guys moving in?
Hopefully November, after the World Series, right? Yeah. But I think it should be ready in October. But I'm going to say hopefully late October.
All right, we have to watch Nolan make another play. Always good to say hello to you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a marvelous play by Nolan.
And it's the second one I marked down tonight where it's above average. Of course, he had the one down on the backhand where he was flying into foul territory and then coming in charging hard on that one.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah. You have a follow-up?
Well, I just was curious because I see Jordan more with their dog Coors than actually DJ. I was wondering where Coors is tonight.
Drew asks a good question. Is Coors at the ballpark tonight, your dog?
No, they don't let him come unless it's Bark in the Park.
That's coming up, though.
And I'm sure he'll be here.
Have you planned it out? Does he have invitations for other dogs?
I don't know. I got to ask. But we're actually doing our next charity event. And so I heard we're putting it together on Bark in the Park night. It's going to be the weekend of the Cubs series. So I don't know. Somehow he's got to be able to come. He can't not come.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks.
Let's go, Rocks. Let's go, DJ.
Go, DJ.
3-2. Giancarlo Stanton home run, I should say, 3-2. Big congratulations to the newest member of our Root Sports family. Meet Kensley Rose Argo. Justin Argo, one of our producers. He and his wife, Caitlin, welcome in Kensley Rose. Caitlin's doing great. Congratulations. Caitlin did all the work. That's awesome.
Justin just sent me a Snapchat. He was holding the baby, and they were watching the Rockies game. So I know you're watching, Justin. Caitlin, congratulations.
That is the best day of your life right there. So we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. The Rockies down a run, 9-1-2. Chad Bettis will be done. Pitched very well, solid outing. Wasn't great early, gave up 2 runs in the first, but you know, 6 innings, 3 runs. It's another quality start. As Christian Adames will be the pinch hitter. It's the 59th quality start for the Rockies.
They had come into this ball game tied for 4th in the National League with San Francisco in quality starts.
And there's a base hit. Not a baby Christian.
And tied for 7th in all of baseball in quality starts, when last year they had 54.
Look at the difference. When you pitch well, especially when your starting pitching is very solid, you're going to have a chance to win every night. The Rockies, 4 losses. They've won 11 out of 15. Those 4 losses, all 2 runs or less. Chances to win every one of those games. We know what happened last night. And it all begins with the starting pitching. Here's Blackmon, home run in the first, and he takes a strike. He's 1 for 2.
And always coming up, seems like lately, with the big hit when you need it.
Got 2 strikes. One other element the Rockies lost when Story went down. 27 home runs, 70+ RBIs. Outstanding defense. He has tremendous range. But they also lost a guy that can steal a base.
Trevor, 8 stolen bases on the season. And just not stealing bases, but taking the extra base, more importantly. Or going first to home if a ball's hitting the gap.
Adames, average speed at first base, lined a single to right a moment ago. Blackmon in battle mode against Cashner. Just the 5th hit for the Rockies against Cashner.
He's in a pretty animated conversation with home plate umpire Clint Fagan. Not sure what it's about.
One and 2. Job covering a borderline pitch. You never want to leave it in an umpire's hands.
That ball had some tail on it.
Cashner's fastball averages just a notch below 94. Typically a fastball that induces a lot of ground balls. And that's going to be a fair ball into the right field corner. Adames to third, and he gets a green light from Stu Cole. He will score easily. Triple for Blackmon. We're all tied again.
Whatever discussion he was having with Clint Fagan. Said, I don't care about that. I'll hit this changeup on the Subaru Supermo for my 3rd triple this season and my 47th RBI. Christian Adames, who had led off this inning with the pinch hit, comes in to slide head first to tie this game up.
Gets a slap on the chest from Tony Walters in the dugout. Here's DJ, give the Rockies the lead. Getting in play, DJ. They're in on the corner, so you stay in the middle of the field. You'll get Charlie home.
That's what DJ did last night with his 4 hits. Stayed centered, right center, up the middle, left center.
Well, you always point this out. When you have that, not only philosophy, because everybody tries to stay in the middle of the field, but when you truly are balanced, if you are a little out front and off speed pitch like Charlie, you're gonna pull it in fair territory typically. This ball line, base hit. The Rockies take a 4-3 lead.
And if you stay in the middle part of the field, you're going to get base hits like DJ, because he gets a off-speed pitch, but because he's thinking middle, hits it past the diving Echeverria.
Well, I guarantee you Jordan LeMahieu got out of her chair there. DJ 4 hits last night and a huge hit tonight for his first knock. He gives the Rockies their first lead of the evening.
And his 40th RBI of the season. This dynamic duo at the top doing it once again.
You know, for a long time you said DJ has to be one of the 2 or 3 best 8-hole hitters in the National League, and now you look and you say he's one of the 2 or 3 best 2-hole hitters in the National League. Martin Prado's right near the top of those
Probably
charts.
got a couple of the top in the game.
Yeah. But you can't imagine him not hitting now behind Charlie, can you?
Not at all. They're the daily double, those 2 guys.
Nobody out. Here's Cargo. Bounces up there. Keep in mind, we're talking about stolen bases, and Rockies don't run that much. DJ, though not a flyer, such a savvy base runner, such a smart, intelligent base runner. That's why he can swipe bases.
Studies the pitchers, knows situations.
He's not going to be running here.
No, but he will be thinking about a ball in the dirt. If Cashner throws a slider or another changeup, look for it down, read angles.
2-0, 2-1. Last year, LeMahieu was 23 out of 26 stealing bases. That's outstanding. Again, for a guy, if you were rating his speed, he's a 50 on the 20 to 80 scale. The average speed. 3-1 on Cargo with Arenado on deck. Cargo a single in the first. He has a 17-game hitting streak. Time for the longest in baseball with Ender Inciarte. Arenado waiting his turn. Rockies up a run in the 6th. And that's hooked down the right field line. One DJ run. Long run to get to the baseball for Stanton. Here comes LeMahieu. He'll score easily. Double for Cargo. Make it 5-3 Colorado. RBI number 76.
Four straight hits for Colorado. Single, triple, single, now a double. Can you imagine if you're Chris Johnson playing first base, 89 feet away from home plate, when you've got a hitter like Carlos Gonzalez ahead in the count, the bat speed he generates, and I've got to try to field that? He just gets on top of that. By the time Chris Johnson reacts, It's halfway out to the wall in right field.
Well, the two guys that hit the ball consistently the hardest in baseball, number one, statistically, is Giancarlo Stanton. Exit velocity off his bat. Stanton is clearly number one. Carlos Gonzalez is probably 2 or 3 on that list statistically.
And sometimes they're not even home runs when they're hit, when they have that exit velocity. They could be singles or doubles.
Big at bat for Nolan. Still nobody out, as Huey mentioned. 4 straight hits. And Nolan takes a strike. Grounded into a 6-4-3, and he struck out swinging. Best RBI man in baseball the last 2 years, Nolan Arenado. He's got 82 right now. Mike Dunn is firing peas down in the Marlins bullpen. David Dahl on deck.
Mike had to come into the game early last night. 2/3 of an innings for Don Mattingly.
Now it looks like the yoga class down there. Everybody's swinging their arms and stretching.
Stretching, laying down on the ground, trying to get the back loose. Well, they did have yoga day earlier today at Coors Field, where they are out in center field stretching and doing yoga.
I don't know if I've ever seen that many guys up at the same time. 2-1, and it bounces up there. Realmuto, who's improved blocking pitches, blocks that one.
After the first pitch from Andrew Cashner to Nolan, he hasn't given him anything close on the Subaru strike zone.
That's where Nolan's got to be selective, which, you know, goes against
human nature.
Human nature and his human nature. And he was bounced up there. A walk. 2 men on for Dahl. Now will Don Mattingly bring in the lefty Dunn. Dahl tripled in the second against Cashner, and he struck out his last at bat against Andrew.
And just like that, Don Mattingly said that's it for Andrew Cashner. 80 pitches. Kind of cruising right along until this 6th inning.
5 straight have reached against Cashner. The Rockies have turned a 1-run deficit into a 2-run advantage, and they are not done yet. 2 on, nobody out. 5-3 Colorado in the 6th. Rockies win. Get 50% off your online order at Papa John's. Use the promo code ROXWIN at papajohns.com. Rockies having a great 6th inning. It began with a pinch single from Christian Adames. Charlie Blackmon followed with an RBI triple. DJ LeMahieu a single up the middle to bring home Blackmon. And then Cargo ripped a double to drive in LeMahieu. And now Nolan has walked. So 2 on, nobody out. And Mike Dunn on to face David Dahl. Mark Reynolds is behind Dahl.
Mike Dunn, the only left-hander as of now in the Miami Marlins. They made a trade for another one. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Dunn, 2/3 of an inning, gave up a hit by a pitch, and also a strikeout. But David Dahl tripled back in the 2nd inning to extend that hitting streak. Also his first career triple.
Said at the time that's about the only thing he hadn't done yet.
Get all the boxes checked off.
That misses. Boy, I love his patience, man. What a slow heartbeat.
It's something that the Rockies really wanted him to do going into this year. Define his strike zone, be a little bit more patient at the plate. They knew that he was going to be able to hit, but show some patience. Work on that.
Now it's 3-0. Gonna look down at Stu Cole.
I'm sure he even has to look down there and to just know that this is automatic.
Three and 1. Yeah, Miami traded earlier in the day for Hunter Cervenka, left-handed pitcher, a young kid from Atlanta. We saw him a couple times.
Throws hard.
Yeah, it's a good arm on the left side, but not active just yet. This ball in the air to right. It'll get down. Cargo around 3rd coming home. And the head first slide ahead of the throw from Stanton. David Dahl with his 7th RBI, 6-3, Colorado. Once again coming through left on left.
In a big way, in a big situation tonight for David Dahl. 3-0, takes the pitch, knowing he's going to get another fastball, and it was in the same spot, belt high, and he rips it to right center field. Let's give a little credit to Carlos Gonzalez on this play, because he knew it. He read it, knowing that Stanton is not going to be able to catch this. Bad ankle and all, taped up ankle. Another huge run. Keep piling on.
So now David Dahl against lefties is 4 for 8.
He is special.
Reynolds takes another strike. It's 0-2. Six straight have reached 5 via hits in the 6th inning. 6 runs, 9 hits now for Colorado. Reynolds came into the ball game 8 for his last 16, a strikeout, and a little bloop to left field that thought was going to drop, and Adeiny Echeverria made a great catch running with his back to home plate to steal a single from Mark. Hard down the line, just foul. Here's another note on David Dahl. He has produced at least 2 hits in 6 of the 12 major league games that he's appeared.
He got called up to AAA because he was hitting so well at AA, and they got called to the big leagues because he was just flat out raking down in AAA.
There's not a next league.
There's no other league.
Strike 3. 1 out. That'll bring up Descalso.
And nick the corner on the Subaru strike zone. The Hall of Fame pitch, as late great Durwood Merrill would say. Talking about Bark at the Park earlier, it's presented by Avoderm and Nylabone. It's Tuesday, August 16th. The event includes a pregame parade on the field with your dog, plus goodies. Special ticket in the dog zone is required and must be pre-purchased.
Daniel takes a strike on the outside corner. So David Dahl, since you made mention of his brief time in Albuquerque, he's now hit 26 of his last 27 games at the AAA level, at the big league level, to the tune of a .431 average, 8 home runs, 22 RBIs, 27 runs scored.
Good for him.
Good swing by Descalso. Behind 0-2. Doesn't have a ton of experience against left-handed pitching this year, just 3 for 14. Single on a ground out in the second and a sharp base hit in the 5th inning. That base hit he had in the 5th was big because it ended a run of 10 straight retired by Cashner at the time.
The wheels fell off fast for Cashner.
Called strike 3 by Clint Fagan.
That's what Daniel's asking. Was it on the pitch or the swing? Saying it's not even close, and it's not on the Subaru strike zone if he called that a strike and not on the swing. Yeah, he didn't swing, so that was definitely a call because he didn't point at him.
Two outs, Nick Hundley at the plate. Arenado at second, Dahl at first. Rockies would like plenty more than 6.
At least one more for tacos.
2-1. Now 2-2. Dunn has struck out 2 in a row after the RBI base hit by David Dahl. 4-run 6th inning. And here's another one coming home. Arenado makes the turn. The throw going to third. Cut off by Echeverria. Big hit from catcher Nick Hundley. And there's your 7th spot. 29th ribby for Hundley. What did we say earlier? He's gotten a number of big hits.
And another one here with 2 outs. Line drive hit hard to center. And Nolan's coming in. David's going to third. And it brings up to the plate the guy that started this whole inning off with the pinch hit single. Christian Adames.
It's great when you're a pinch hitter and you get 2 ABs in the same inning. 2 for the price of 1. You're right. His sharp single began this rally about 15 minutes ago.
What's even better is if you get another hit. 2 hits.
Dahl at third. Hundley at first. Keep batting on. The other unique part about it, if Christian could throw out a knock, is he'd have one from the left side, one from the right side in the same inning.
That would be even better.
Andrew Cashner saw the wheels fall off in the 6th inning. He's pitching a very good ball game.
So far, all 5 of these runs are going to be on Andrew's ledger for his ERA.
Yep, the book's closed now on him. 5+, he gives up 7 runs, all earned. On 8 hits. His most hits he's given up more than 3 weeks.
For Cashner, I got tacos. That's right. 7 runs.
Outside, 3-1.
I say for Cashner, who had come into this game, this was career start number 100. His career, he was 30-49. The 3rd lowest win percentage among active pitchers with 75 or more starts.
(3-1). Christian Adames, you could read his lips and said, "Where was that?" I wanted to make sure he swung at a strike. You hear hitters ask umpires that all the time on pitches they feel may have been borderline that they fired at. It's in the Subaru strike zone.
Just to have confirmation.
Crowd of 37,699 in the ballpark tonight, and they have thoroughly enjoyed this 6th inning. It's on a purple and green and gold for CSU night.
Well, if anything, this almost guarantees that Mike Dunn's not going to be available tomorrow. With 20, next pitch will be number 27, back-to-back days, and
they'll probably have Cervenko in the
yeah, but
fold
still,
tomorrow.
but then it goes back to they still only have 1 left-hander in their bullpen.
Makes it easier for a manager. Another 3-2, and that is ball 4, and they're loaded up for Blackman. Here's something else that is really nice about this inning. Chad Bettis, who threw the 59th quality start for the Rockies this year, has a chance to get his 10th victory of the season. He is the pitcher of record.
And that would join Tyler Chatwood, who has 10. If he gets to 10, John Gray, who's going tomorrow, would be going for his 9th.
Gutsy outing again for Bettis. Gave up 2 runs in the first, and honestly, it could have been worse than that.
Well, even after giving up the home run to stand the ball behind, he walks Ozuna, but then retires the next 4 guys. Pretty fast fashion.
So the bases are drunk, and here's Charlie Blackmon. Takes a strike. Charlie, a triple earlier in the inning. 3 for 8 this year with the bases full. And a base hit to center field. 1 run is scored. Here comes Huntley. He'll score. Put 2 more up on the board. 3 RBI inning for Blackmon. 9-3 Rockies.
Charlie yesterday was 0 for 2 with the bases loaded. I know that was just gnawing at him not to be able to come through. Today, not a problem. Comes through in a grand way. 4 RBIs on the evening. He's a slider, just punches it to center field.
He's now double shy of the cycle. And what did we say at the top of the broadcast?
Well, he followed it down to 299.
They don't want to be under 300. You know he's going to throw a few hits. Blackmon with a 4 RBI ball game, 3 in the inning. And the Rockies have put up a 7th spot, and the inning's not over. As they have scored 7 here in the 6th inning. It's been fun to watch. And everybody gets tacos tomorrow with the Rockies eclipsing the 7-run mark. Go to your participating Taco Bell location between 4 and 6 tomorrow afternoon, and you'll get your Rockies taco special, La Masa Taco Bell. This is Nefi Agondo.
This is the 5th game of the season for Nefi. Spent part of the time down in AAA New Orleans, but also missed time with a fractured rib. Moved off waivers over the winter from Philadelphia. Made his major league debut with the Phillies last year. Fastball, about 64% of the time, will range from 94 to 97, and then the slider, about 89 from Nefi.
DJ takes low. It's 2-0. 7-run sixth is the biggest sixth inning of the year for the Rockies. DJ takes a strike, 2-1. LeMahieu an RBI single earlier in the frame, 1 for 3. Adames at third, Blackman at first. 3-1.
What happened the other night when it came up and in against Nolan? He took the next pitch out. There might be a little more emphasis on this pitch and this swing for DJ to try to pull it into the stands.
And that one almost hit him also. Now they're loaded up for cargo. Cargo hit one of those 115-mile-an-hour ropes down the right field line for an RBI double earlier in the frame.
And Crown's still into this inning.
He's the 13th man to hit here in the 6th. Cargo, like so many great hitters, loves that first offering. The majority of his home runs have come on the first pitch of an at-bat.
Well, he knows he has a young hitter who just walked the guy in front of him on 5 pitches.
And this is popped up. Realmuto is not going to have a play. Cargo's RBI earlier in the frame is 76th. Second on the club to Nolan's 82. Bases jammed up again. Adames at third, Blackman at second, LeMahieu at first. Oh, 2. Called strike 3. Cargo can't believe it. He thought that was outside, and the guy upset with Clint Fagan. Looked like it was outside. But the Rockies produce 7 runs in the 6th. They turn a 3-2 deficit into a 6-run advantage. Here's our Kubota pitching performance of the night. It was uneven early, but so typical of Chad Bettis. He got dialed in, and the overall outing is a good one. 3 runs over 6 innings, especially at Coors Field. A couple of walks, 3 strikeouts, he gave up 7 hits, and because the Rockies erupted for 7 runs, he's in line for another W. It would be his 10th of the year Kubota pitching performance of the night. And now, over his last 6 starts, he has a chance to improve to 4-0. 6 straight quality starts, the ERA at 3.32. The opposition hitting just 2.34 over those 6 ball games. He's one of the leaders in the pitching department with those guys, whether it's starters or the bullpen guys. Just a natural leader, and now Jake McGee will take the handoff from Chad Bettis.
The birthday boy, Jake McGee, who turns 30 today.
D. Gordon, top of the order for the Marlins. And McGee is in need of a quick and high-quality inning. Been a rough go of late for Jake McGee. And the thing about it is, I know he keeps saying the arm is fine, but this is a guy that threw in the mid to upper 90s. We haven't seen a ton of that.
No, we haven't seen the explosion on the fastball from Jake. Haven't seen as many strikeouts either. 22 strikeouts in 30+ innings.
92-mile-an-hour fastball, fouled off, 1-2. Rockies have Jordan Lyles up in their pen. He finished up last night in the 9th inning for Carlos Estevez, who had that rough outing. Gordon tripled in the first, fouled that off. Seems even when Jake, not trying to pick on him, but he'd be the first to say this, even in his outings where he ends up with a 1-2-3 inning, there are a lot of foul balls, and it turns into 18, 20, 22, 24 pitches in a frame. And you got to hustle if you're DJ, and did he get him yet? Well, that's a great play by LeMahieu, circling and a dead sprint to get that baseball.
Because if he doesn't circle it, he's not going to close some ground to first base, and he's not going to get as much on the throw. So he gets around it, knowing that he's got to get rid of it. The quick transfer from glove to hand is super fast, and then the sidearm throw. That's where it helps to have the strong arm. A lot of times say a second baseman doesn't need that strong of arm. Yeah, they do, because there's a lot of guys that are getting down the line like D. Gordon, or you're having to make a play going up the middle. To have the arm strength and be able to throw from different angles is key for a second baseman.
And DJ has a left side arm. He's a shortstop at LSU. Strike 1 on Martin Prado. He's 1 for 3. That's foul. Prado from Maracay in Venezuela makes his off-season home in the Orlando area. Told you before, he's a workout partner with Carlos Gonzalez. We have a group of big leaguers that live in that Orlando area
of the United States that has that. Orlando is one. You see a lot down in Miami, out in LA, Phoenix, Scottsdale. Down in Texas, Vegas. I mean, it's kind of the warm weather places where you can get outside and hit.
Ground ball to DJ. This is an easier play. 2 out. Well, I used to say about Paradise Valley down in the Scottsdale area that you come out of your house, blow a whistle, and you have like 30 big leaguers to go work out with.
Who just answers the whistle first? want to meet the Bachelor, Ben Higgins, at an exclusive Diamond Night event at Coors Field on August 15th. Tickets are very limited, so go to Rockies.com/diamond today.
Christian Yelich at the plate. 2 singles and a ground ball to third. 96 on that fastball. Rockies, I think, close this thing out, and you better be able to up 6 runs late.
Yeah.
Then you turn the page to tomorrow, not trying to get too far in front of things, and you hand it off to your big horse, John Gray. You gotta like that.
Yes, you do. 8-4, 3.77 ERA, and how about 5-0 with a 3.83 at home?
One and 2 on Yelich. 2-2. Sure, it's one of the things, Huey, that you look at when you're breaking down a hitter's swing. This guy's always balanced, isn't he?
Balance is the key to hitting. If you don't have balance, you're not going to be consistent.
And a good strong inning for McGee. Mid-90s fastball. That was good to see as he strikes out Yelich. 1-2-3 in the 7th. The Rockies up 9-3. Colorado Rockies baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Well, everybody in Lodo in a festive mood after that 7-run 6th inning for the Rockies, erasing a 1-run deficit. It's 9-3 going to the bottom half of inning number 7. Nolan Arenado will lead it off against Nefi Ogando with Jeff Houston, Mark Stout, and Jenny Cavnar. I'm Drew Goodman. Rockies trying to erase the memory of what occurred in the 9th inning last night. They had a 3-1 lead only to lose 5-3. Trying to get back to 500.
That was almost the first question asked to Walt today. It was what we let in his response to our open. You know, how's your team going to respond after last night? How do you bounce back from that? Well, it's baseball. You learn to do it. It's the only sport that you play for 6 straight months almost every day.
Yeah, I think too many times You lose a game like that in May, and people say, "Oh, is this going to precipitate, the end of the world?" This ball is foul. Players move on. I will say this, and I said it off the top. There's still a ton of baseball left to be played. It's basically a third of the season left. Tonight's game number 110. However, Walt knows this. I mean, this is a guy who had a great career and played a decade and a half in the big leagues. Each time you mark a day off the calendar and you have a missed opportunity, that's sharply hit a product. Did he come off the bag? No. Chris Johnson stayed on. 1 out. But it's a lost opportunity. You hate when it happens in April or May, but you focus a little bit more on them when they happen in August. So this has been a great response.
Well, especially too when you're chasing teams, when you've got 2 or 3 teams ahead of you in the wild card, a couple teams ahead of you in the division. You look at the division, the way San Francisco's playing, they've got the worst record in all of baseball since the All-Star break. The Dodgers did win today. They beat Boston 3-0 behind Ross Stripling.
Stripling had just gotten sent out.
Yeah, he got called back because Rich Hill got another blister. He couldn't make the start, but Norris's back was hurting again. It's not like their rotation's all hunky-dory.
Back up the middle. David Dahl has his 3rd hit of the night. He's just the 10th player since 1913 to start a career hitting in at least 12 straight. The last player to do it was Minnesota's Glenn Williams in 2005. I'm going to say, of all the guys on that list, David Dahl is going to have by far the best big league career, because the guys who are on that list, a lot of them, their highlight was their first couple of weeks in the big leagues. This guy's too gifted not to have a strong career.
Second 3-hit night on this homestand.
Juan Pierre's on that list, and Juan had a great career. Rocco Baldelli, till he had some ailments, had a really good career. This ball's right to left. Now Mark Reynolds with a base hit. With virtually every other guy in that list, the highlight was their first couple of weeks. I'll tell you a guy recently who hit 11 straight to begin his career, who's a really good player. Gregory Polanco of the Pirates when he came up.
Yeah, and he just keeps getting better too.
Yep. Back-to-back singles by Dahl and Reynolds, and here's Descalso. Gondo's pitch misses inside. Line to left. That's fair. I think Descalso thought it was going to go foul. He hesitated. That's going to bring 2 home. Reynolds following Dahl to the plate. 11-3 Colorado. Descalso has 3 ribbies tonight.
And 2 hits. Not sure what he was worried about. That stayed fair by 1.5 feet. Coming out of the box, you're just hoping and praying as you're running down the line. It doesn't slice because you know if it doesn't, you got extra bases and some steaks out there, some ribeyes, and that's what he got. You have 24 on the season.
Here's Hundley, big base hit last inning. Behind in the count with 2 outs to drive in a run. Ryan Rayburn's in the on-deck circle.
Jordan Lyles is ready to go out in the Rockies bullpen.
The Rockies an inning and a half ago started the frame down 3-2. It's now 11-3. The Rockies have 14 hits. They had 4 hits going into last inning. 10 hits over the last inning and a third.
Included a triple and 2 doubles.
Well, Charlie Blackmon's going to hit again in this game. And Charlie needs a double for the cycle.
And everybody in that dugout knows it. He knows it. They've already told him, if you get a single, don't stop. Just try one of those little league doubles. Just keep running.
Rockies trailed 2-0 after the top of the first. Down the line, just foul. Gondo strikes out Hundley for the 2nd out, and here comes Rayburn.
.258 average is 8 for 31. Live Rockies baseball is here with MLB.com. At bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live stats, news, and much more.
Rayburn looks away. Thought that was a ball.
A lot of disagreement tonight with Clint Fagan's strike zone.
When you have 4 backward Ks with a real aggressive lineup, it's usually indicative of a larger than normal zone. But the most important numbers on the night, 11-3.
And even when you got the lead tonight, you just kept piling on. It wasn't, oh, we're satisfied with the 2-run lead, the 3-run lead. They just kept the foot on the gas, and it just kept expanding it. 7 runs last inning, 2 so far this inning.
And a line shot, base hit around third. Here comes Descalso, and the Rockies have a dozen. Rayburn a pinch single and a ribby. And that will bring Blackmon up, and Descalso stopped to say something to him, and I'm sure it's a little bit of a scouting report on Ongando, not to remind him that he needs a double.
No, he went to tell him he's got his fastball that'll sink, he's got a slider and a changeup.
Charlie tonight has had a terrific night. Rockies down 2-0 when he came up to the bottom of the first, and he launched one into the second deck, his 13th home run of the year. Then he had an RBI triple in the 6th. And then later in the inning, a 2-run single. So 4 RBIs tonight for Blackmon. His next RBI will be his 50th. Wouldn't that be something if he could throw out a double right here?
Yeah, those 49 RBIs out of the #1 hole is second in the National League to Matt Carpenter, who has 51.
Through the left side, it's a base hit. And
he can't go.
Charlie, I mean, much as he'd like to, he can't. A 4-hit night, 4 RBIs.
Well, he just had to follow his good buddy DJ LeMahieu, who had 4 hits last night. But I can match that tonight. A couple singles with a triple and a home run.
Well, LeMahieu's followed up his 4-hit night with a 1-for-3 performance and a walk. He's been on 7 times in this series against the Marlins. Nobody up in the Marlins bullpen. Don Mattingly telling the Effie Uganda, you're going to have to wear it. He's managed a lot of games here. He has great respect for this Rockies lineup. $12 runs, 16 hits now. On-base percentage of .475 at home. #1 in baseball. Mike Trout at the Big A has been on almost 46% of the time.
All-stars and some MVPs on that list.
3-0.
How about this too, Drew? Tonight with all these runs, everybody in the starting lineup, save the pitcher Chad Bettis, has scored a run tonight.
Everybody has done it in the last inning and 2/3. 3-0 on LeMahieu. 3-1. Cargo's hoping for another opportunity with the bases loaded. Felt he had one taken away last time on a called strike 3 on a pitch that was outside the zone. .3-1, and he'll get that opportunity right now. Dustin McGowan is just now getting up for Miami. Seven in the 6th, 3 here in the 7th, and Cargo up with the bases loaded again. He's 2 for 4, single and a double, with an RBI and a run scored.
Hitting around in the 6th inning. Cargo's the 9th guy to come to the plate here in the 7th.
Ball 1. He's the 22nd guy to come up in the last 2 innings for the Rockies. 1 ball, 1 strike. He owns 5 grand slams in his career.
Trying to hit a 6th.
Osuna is playing about 395 feet from home plate, center field. They want to go away. Two and 2. A lot of times going away against Cargo is not a good idea.
This year especially. Yeah, the way he's driven the ball, not just hit the ball to the left side, driven the ball that way. And you're going to pull the shift on him, so there's only 2 guys on the left side of second base.
And now it's a full count.
That's the first fastball that Redondo has thrown to Cargo.
Three and 2, 2 outs. Bases full of Rockies. And a ground ball to Gordon. That'll end the inning. The Rockies scored 3 more as they hit around once again. They lead 12-3 as we go to the 8th.
(12-3). Let's get you the Coors Timeless Moment, brought to you by Coors Banquet, and we're going to incorporate what happened earlier tonight with Giancarlo Stanton. This is 2012 here at Coors Field off of Josh Renicky. That one was measured at 494 feet. Tonight, top of the 5th. This one, 504 feet. And you see that eclipsed Mike Piazza's 496-footer that had stood as the longest home run at Coors Field. So thus, it's like an instant Coors Timeless Moment, Julie.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
I want to jump in there because you had a nice piece with Darren Holmes a couple of weeks ago.
I did, yeah.
The ball that Mike Piazza hit, which was, and I put this in air quotes, measured at 496 feet. I'm going to pick that up in a moment because Ichiro's up, sitting on 29.98, and the crowd is abuzz. And it takes us to what Walt Weiss said before the ball game as we jump around for a moment. He said, I have the greatest respect in the world and admiration for what Ichiro has provided in his career and all of his accomplishments. He said, He goes, yeah, if we're up about 10 runs, I have no problem with him hitting a little single through the left side.
Yeah, when you say slap a single to left field.
Yeah. Well, the Rockies are up 9. 2 hits shy of baseball immortality. Jordan Lyles misses up and in. It's 2-1. So he's hitting for Stanton. And all the shutters are ready.
Talk about guys and their swings not changing over time. Well, Ichiro has not. He has over 1,000 hits with 2 strikes.
Ichiro, bouncer, Nolan, can't get him. He's at 2,999. Despite a marvelous effort by Arenado, Ichiro is 1 hit away.
Is any doubt if there's
I'd like to be 43 and run like that still.
That's what I was going to say. If there's any doubt about what his legs can still do, it was on display with that hit. I mean, only Nolan and maybe Machado in the American League can make this play a bang-bang play. He barehanded that ball. He didn't try to glove it. It reminds me of Omar Vizquel in Chris Basio's no-hitter, where he barehanded the ball
on the bad hop.
On the bad hop in the 9th inning, and made the play.
Marcell Ozuna at the plate. Now we'll tell that Stanton story and that Mike Piazza story. So, for the first time in Coors Field history, we have a 504-foot home run. But Mike Piazza's home run, way back in the 90s, was hit off the King Super sign in extreme left center field, just to the left of the rock pile. Stanton's ball landed well in front of that. You say, well, how can Piazza's ball only be 496 feet? Bob Gebhard was the general manager back then. And Bob's a great guy, and he said, we're not allowing 500-foot home runs against. He told Darren Holmes that. And Holmes, Mark, what did he tell you? How far did they actually measure Piazza's home run at?
I can't remember what he said. What was the number he gave?
I thought he said like 560.
Is that what it was?
I want to say it was 560 something, somewhere in there. And now Stanton's, according to StatCast, is at 504.
And that ball coming off the bat of Stanton left the bat at 116 miles per hour, and it had a launch angle of only 18%. Or 18 degrees, excuse me, not percent. 18 degrees.
It's a line drive.
Yeah, the lower one we saw was Cargo in Arizona.
At 14 degrees.
Yeah.
That was the one he hit against Greinke on opening day. JT Realmuto with 1 out. Two strikes on Realmuto. He's 0 for 3. He's been robbed twice. Once by Nolan, once by DJ. Rockies made a couple of changes, get some guys off their feet. David Dahl is now in right field as Ryan Rayburn takes over in left. Cargo comes out. know, of the active hit leaders, with Ichiro at first base with his 2,999. A-Rod has 3114. And then behind Ichiro is Adrian Beltre. This ball's lined to right and into the corner. Ichiro will get a stop sign at third on the Real Muto double. See Beltre next week. Nolan Arenado, one of his heroes growing up.
We'll see him for those 4 games, 2 here and then 2 down in Arlington.
Actually, we'll see a couple of guys on that high on that hit list, because number 5 among active players with 2,567 hits is the newest Ranger, Carlos Beltran. Here's Chris Johnson. Ichiro with that infield hit snapped an 0 for 11. Even Ichiro had to feel some of the pressure, right?
Sure. As much media has been surrounding him and following him each and every step of the way.
Well, the question is, you know, in their outfield, they play Yelich every day, they play Osuna every day, they play Stanton every day, and they just had a day off. Does Don Mattingly give one of those guys an additional day off in this series? I don't know if that's likely.
Not, but he comes in to pinch hit tomorrow. Happens to get a base hit tomorrow. Wade Boggs also had his 3,000th hit in 1999. Tomorrow, so it could be the anniversary of Boggsy getting 3,000.
Walt made a comparison, Huey, between Boggs and Ichiro that swung on a miss. Good pitch by Lyles. 2 outs. He gets Johnson. That there's similarities between the two guys, because had they wanted to sacrifice average, both of them have a lot of natural pop. So both of them probably could have been 30 home run guys.
No doubt. Watching both of them swing the bat. Watching Boggsy a number of times in batting practice where he would just pepper the outfield bleachers. I mean, if he had 8 swings, 7 of them would be home runs.
Miguel Rojas is going to pinch hit for Echeverria. Top of 8, Rockies up 12-3. Turned this whole game around with 2 explosive innings, 7-run 6th, added 3 more in the 7th. Down 3-2. Chad Bettis on the plus side. And 3-0 on Rojas. Marlins came into the ball game with an outstanding mark against the National League West this year, 15-6. And a 4-pitch walk to Rojas. That's going to load the bases for Derek Dietrich.
It's the last thing that Walt or Steve wanted to do. Get on that phone to the bullpen. Get somebody loose.
Something about, we all know this, at this ballpark, you very rarely, from a manager's standpoint, feel 100% comfortable. You just start thinking, well, you know, Somebody runs into one, and then it could spiral so quickly, and you say, well, you're up 9 runs. And next thing you know, it's a 5-run game or a 4-run game, and you're thinking, now I got to get my plus side guys up, and you just want to always be ahead of it. Saying that's about to occur, but now Scott Oberg has gotten up.
I think Scott understands the situation, so he's not getting completely loose at 100% right now. There's 2 outs in this inning, but enough where if they call down again, he could get firing right away.
Derek Dietrich's lost a lot of playing time this week with the return to D. Gordon. Fouls that off.
We were talking about Wade Boggs a moment ago, Drew. In 1987, he had 24 home runs and also hit 363 to win the batting title. But he had never hit more than 11 home runs in any other season.
There's another guy who was such a fabulous hitter that they said could have hit 20 home runs if he wanted to, and that was the late Tony Gwynn.
Today's the anniversary of Tony getting his 3,000th hit.
Yeah. Kind of interesting that it's a list of 30, and a couple of guys did it right around this date. Ball and a strike on Dietrich with the bases loaded at 2 outs. Called strike by Clint Fagan. And that pitch was off the outside corner. Blake's not 17 inches wide tonight.
Might be more like 19 or 20. Maybe even 21.
And out there again in the same spot.
I bet you if we throw the Subaru strikes, yeah, just maybe a half a baseball further out.
I love that call by Nick Hundley. Put it on Derek Dietrich, put it on Clint Fagan.
You know what? It's the Greg Maddux call. They're going to call it, keep going out further and further.
Slider, ground ball, foul.
Derek Dietrich and Charlie Blackmon, roommates at Georgia Tech.
Big night for Charlie. 4 hits, double shy of the cycle, 4 RBIs. Home run in the first. 2-2, and that's fouled off. Ichiro singled, infield hit for 2999. He's at third. Robuto doubled. He's at second, and Miguel Rojas pinch hitting walked.
They got him.
They hit him. Now 4th in a row. (12-4).
Nick's arguing that he stuck his elbow out over the plate,
which he did.
Yeah.
Wearing that guard, so you're not afraid to do it.
Yeah, that's a definite.
That should be ball 3.
That should be, yeah. Stuck his arm out. That's what Nick was arguing about.
Well, the Rockies are going to have to make a change here, up by 8 runs.
Your attention.
Baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo customers get your 2-for-1 club level tickets by visiting wellsfargo.com/Rockies. View of Old Town in Fort Collins on CSU night here at Coors Field. With the score 12-4 in favor of the home team. 2 outs, bases still loaded in the 8th inning. D. Gordon at the plate. And Scott Oberg takes over as Jordan Lyles got just 2 outs.
That's been really good since being recalled from Albuquerque. It's just unfortunate that you had to bring him into the game. I mean, you had the 12-3 lead. And Jordan Lyles, you'd already pinch hit, so he could, if you could get 2 innings out of him, you'd be right where you want to be. Instead, you had to go get him.
And D. Gordon shaking his head. I get it. I mean,
Yeah.
Clint, listen, I have the greatest respect for those guys in blue, though they're not really in blue anymore. They're in black, the umpires. But Clint Fagan's zone's been poor tonight, both ways.
Sure.
I mean, there have been a number of pitches well off the plate that have been called strikes. The guys at your level, Huey, they know that zone really, really, really well.
Well, if you don't, you're not going to be at this level long.
2-1.
I mean, you're so conditioned as you come up through the minor leagues to define your strike zone.
And 3-1. That forces in another run. 12-5. And now you have to deal with Prado.
Yeah, and the last 3 guys, a walk, hit by pitch, and a walk.
Well, this is not going to please Walt. This is sloppy.
No. And Don Mattingly had already taken Stanton out of the game. He was saying, okay, I'm already looking towards tomorrow.
He had the white flag raised.
Yeah, he was waving the towel.
That's exactly what I was talking about. I mean, he throws one in the gap with Gordon at first. You're talking about a 12-8 ball game.
And it comes back to that saying, grand slam. Grand slam away. Scotty, put him down now.
And this is going to be a tough play with Gordon running, but DJ got to the bag just in front of Gordon. 2 runs for Miami. 12-5, including Ichiro, who started it with his 2,999th hit. Brewers erupted for 10 runs in the 6th and 7th. They have a 12-5 lead as they come to bat in the bottom of the 8th inning. Some changes for Miami. Derek Dietrich stays in. Prado comes out. Dietrich's at third. Echeverria had come out. Miguel Rojas hit for him. He stays at shortstop. And Ichiro, who pinch hit for Stanton, is playing right field, which means that Ichiro, one hit shy of 3,000, will hit in the top of the 9th inning.
Be up second next inning.
And the new pitcher is the former Blue Jay Dustin McGowan.
Coming off a bad run in Chicago where he gave up 4 hits and 3 earned runs in 2 innings. It's the last time he's been out on the hill.
One and 2 on Nolan. Had the tower buzzed a couple times this week.
Responded the first time with a home run.
One out. Here comes David Dahl, 3 for 4 tonight. 12-game hitting streak to begin his career.
19 for 49 for David. What a day it's been for David. Second inning, got a triple, later come around to score. And then part of that 6-run inning, single RBI for good measure. The next inning, another base hit right up the middle.
Two strikes. That gets away, and David, even as he strikes out, will reach.
Strikeout, wild pitch. Gets up at first base after the hustle. JT didn't quite know where this ball went. It was off his left leg over towards the Marlins dugout.
Center field, another hit for Mark Reynolds. Mark Reynolds is just on fire. 2 more hits tonight. He is 10 for his last 21 at the plate. And 3 hits last night, including an RBI double.
Could have had 3 tonight if it wasn't for the circus catch by Echeverria at short left field. The over-the-shoulder grab.
Daniel Descalso, he's driven in 3 tonight. He's 2 for 4, single and a double. 17 hits for the Rockies tonight. You know, the Rockies yesterday out-hit the Marlins. They had 11 hits yesterday. And when the Marlins are out-hit, going into yesterday, they were 7-33. This is a team that has the 2nd most hits to the Red Sox in baseball. Rockies, it's generally an indication you're going to win the game. Unfortunately, last night we know what happened in the 9th inning. But tonight they've thrown out 17 knocks.
Just 2 shy of their season high at 19.
Ball, 1 strike on Descalso. There's David Dahl. Every day you got to print out like 6 pages of notes to account for the records that he's producing. It was like stories.
Right.
Start to his career. And
Additional notes.
Really whole first season for Trevor. Since 2009, Dahl with 19 hits through his first 12 games. The only guy who has more in that time frame in his first 12 was Yasiel Puig, who had 20 in 2013 when he debuted. Now Puig's in Oklahoma City.
Trying to figure out what had happened, because all his numbers have gone downhill for Puig the last 3 years. Speaking of Trevor's story, it's nice to see he was in the locker room yesterday. Got a chance to say hi to him. Just happy it's behind him and he can start to be on the road to recovery.
Yep. This ball sharply hit. That is a great play by Rojas. Just took a hit and a ribby away from Descalso. Guy played a little first late last night, and he made a marvelous play there.
He's up the middle and then on one hop catches it. Spins, gets a throw off to D. Gordon, but Daniel gets down the line in time. Does some Gowan saying, I appreciate that, because that would have been an RBI, another earned run on the books.
Here's Hundley 1 for 4, an RBI single in the 6th. Miami bullpen, one of the better bullpens in baseball this year, is impressive with the number of guys that throw aspirin. And it's a hard throwing group, isn't it, Huey?
Well, the last guy is Ramos. He's the soft tosser of the group,
and he'll touch the mid-90s.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, when everybody else is 97 to 100.
Ellington last night.
Kyle Bearclaw.
It's a big arm. Big slider, too.
Whitgren, Nick Whitgren.
And McGowan ends up with 3 strikeouts in the inning. The Rockies threaten. They do not score. Ichiro will appear in the 9th inning. A hit shy of 3,000. Rockies up 7 runs.
12-5 as we head to the top of the ninth. We will see Ichiro for one more at bat. More on that in a moment. The hit parade coming out. You love it.
I love a game like this, and the Rockies need it, especially after last night. David Dahl is on the pace to be maybe an Ichiro type player?
Maybe, perhaps. Speaking of
start.
Ichiro, he's now at 2,999, about to approach 3,000. Only 30 players have done it, including Tony Gwynn. This day in history, August 6th, 1999, that's when he recorded his 3,000th hit. Oh, he also happened to record hit 2,000 on that same exact date. August 6th happens to be his mom's birthday. Pretty special for Tony Gwynn. Guys, we'll send it back to you as we see if Ichiro can't get 3,000 tonight, and we hope to be talking about a Rockies victory for the Toyota postgame show.
Well, you better be talking about a Rockies victory. The Rockies need 3 outs, and they're up 7 runs. And yes, Ichiro, a hit shy of 3,000, will hit after Christian Yelich. And Scott Oberg, who got the final out in the 8th inning, is looking forward to getting those 3 outs. And his first pitch is in there on the outside corner. Strike 1 on Yelich. 2 for 4 tonight.
Opponent's hitting 158 against Scott since his recall.
Two and 1. And 3 and 1. And that's ball 4. That's maddening.
Yeah. A 7-run lead.
Here comes Ichiro. So Ichiro did not hit the big leagues until he was 27. He's 43 now, sitting on 2,999 hits. The last man to eclipse 3,000 hits, A-Rod, a year ago. Prior to that, it was another Yankee, Derek Jeter, in 2011. And before that, it was a moment we witnessed in Houston when Craig Biggio on June 28th of 2007 went 5 for 5, including his 3,000th hit against the Rockies. Ichiro takes outside, ball 1.
It took just a moment in between because they had to change out the baseballs. Special baseballs for this moment.
Back up the middle, dropped, throw to first, out at first. That would have been very interesting because it would have gone to the official score. 1 out.
And if it had gotten over the head of Oberg, who would have been able to make the play?
Yeah, I think if it gets over his head, you're going to get a
Probably
force
a
out.
force out at second base. Scott jumps up.
I think because of how, you know, he had to be really athletic and leap, and it comes out of his glove. I think you'd have to have scored that a hit, wouldn't you?
I think so.
I don't think you'd give him an error on that.
So close.
Now on to the business of getting the last 2 outs and winning the ball game. Asuna at the plate. Takes a strike. Up the middle, DJ. Next to play, 2 outs. Descalso just had to clear his Bobby
And
out of the way.
there was communication going on between DJ and Daniel. Daniel knew he couldn't get there. DJ said, I've got it. Just don't block my vision when I go to throw.
DJ's had a lot of chances tonight, and he's handled, as he always does, everyone flawlessly. JT Realmuto doubled last inning and scored. He's 1 for 4. He's got a 9-game hitting streak. Two outs in the ninth, and a ground ball fair. He's going to have an RBI double here. And it's 12-6. You always want to play cleanly. And the Rockies are going to win this game, barring some sort of catastrophe. But I don't think Walt White's going to be pleased with the last couple innings.
No, because you probably tacked on 20 to 25 minutes on this game. Having to make some pitching changes, the number of base runners, the walks.
That's the thing, but you know, if they hit, you know, balls in the gap and earn their way on, you can live with that. But last inning there was a walk, 2 walks, a hit batter. This inning, Scott walked the first man he faced in Yelich on 5 pitches. Behind 2-0 on Chris Johnson. Just not clean. You know, we say all that, and it's stating the obvious, and the absolute last guy on earth who wants to be firing pitches out of the zone is the guy who's doing it. Not trying to do that. This is up the middle. This is going to be a tough play. DJ going to throw it, and he almost got him. I thought he probably should eat the baseball. He almost threw out Johnson.
Because of where he slid and ended up 2 feet in the grass on the shortstop side. Might as well take a look at this. There's no harm in it. There's 2 outs. It's a 9th inning. Then the slide and how quickly he pops up to his feet. He's out. Ball in the glove. Tough to tell from this, and this will give us a better angle. Now that angle is hard to see.
You know what? I think.
You know what?
I think with that angle, I think he may be out.
Yeah, once he slowed down on the Subaru Supermo. Different angles that you're trying to pick up. This one's hard because you lose sight of where the foot is in relation to the bag as the ball's going in the glove. If you win the challenge, you're shaking hands and you've got the victory. This is the best one. I think the ball's in the glove and the foot is still 2 inches above the bag. Just waiting for New York to decide.
I think we have a decision. Come on, Joe. What do we have? Going out. Ball game over. Great play, DJ LeMahieu. Time to shake hands. The Rockies with an emphatic response to the disappointment of last night. They beat the Marlins 12-6. And they get back to 555 and 55. A chance to capture another series tomorrow when John Gray takes to the hill. A lot of offensive stars, including David Dahl tonight. Chad Bennis wins his 10th ball game. He's 10-6. Cashner takes the loss. Our Jimmy John's delivery of the game. Charlie Blackmon, 4 hits tonight. 2 singles, a double. The home run you just saw 4 RBIs for the Rockies' extraordinary leadoff man. Big night for Chuck Nasty. Rockies win it 12-6. Time to go to center field. On CSU night, Jenny Kavnar, a happy lady with Ryan Spilborghs. Jenny?
You got it, man. I told you, a little green and gold does everybody some good.
I cannot wait till tomorrow. Sunday's gonna be awesome.
I said I'm proud to be a CSU Ram and Rocky. Rockies back to 500. Plenty to talk about coming up on the Toyota Postgame Show.